Hi, I'm Landry Owens, and I'm group leader for discussion board 14, Paradise Lost 2. Book 9, question 1. Are Adam and Eve seen as equally responsible for the fall, or does Milton distribute blame in a biased manner? Most of the group decided that Eve took most of the blame over Adam, but one argued that they both took the same amount of blame because they were both tempted at different times and they both gave in to sin and gave in to temptation. Eve gave in to temptation from the devil, and then she tempted Adam. And then Adam gave in to temptation when he was tempted by Eve, and he gave in. That's what John argued, but everyone else in the group argued that Eve took most of the blame because she was tempted by the devil first, and then she tempted Adam, and then after the fall, they were the reason for the fall. Okay, question number 2. How has Milton defined innocence, and what is the effect of losing it? Milton defined innocence as, Garrett Miller put this part, so I'm going to quote him here. Milton expressed innocence as the absence of sin and the purity of heart. Soon after disobeying God by eating the fruit from the tree of knowledge, Adam looks at Eve with lust, as shown in line 1031, and he quoted a line from the book here. With all perfection, so inflame my sins. End quote. Okay, so basically, this kind of sums up what everyone else said too. Milton described purity as you were pure, absence of sin, just a blank, clean slate, basically. And when you lose it, then you lose that innocence, you lose that purity. You have something on you now. You have a past, basically. And before your innocence, you didn't have a past. You just were clean. You were just a pure... Think of a clean whiteboard, and then someone starts writing on it. And over time, you just have lines. Like, you wipe away stuff, but it's still there. And that's basically how it is when you lose your innocence. You lose that clean slate. Book 10, question 1. Satan's fate. A kind of comic episode is described in lines 504 to 577 concerning the fate of Satan and his comrade devils. Do you think this episode is appropriate? Does it make a point? Or is Milton tossing some slapstick humor at a wrong moment? Most of the group decided that it was appropriate because God was kind of Milton was throwing like a punch back at Satan. Because what God did to Satan was that he turned all his little comrade devils into snakes, which represents what Satan did to Eve when he tempted her in the garden when he was a snake. And then when the snakes or conrad devils tried to go eat the fruit that was there by the conrad devils, it turned into ash, which represents the temptation between Eve and what Satan did, basically. Everyone felt this was appropriate to put it in because it kind of showed a little bit of humor, a little bit of irony, but others argued that it wasn't appropriate, but they didn't back it up. They just said it was appropriate or inappropriate, and that was about it. Okay, question number 2, book 10. By the end, their love is triumphing again, Adam and Eve's love. They're working as a team and they're asking for God's forgiveness. How does that happen? How does the couple help each other learn to seek God's forgiveness? Basically, most of the group decided that they learned to seek God's forgiveness because they learned to seek forgiveness in each other. They both understood that they were doing wrong, and they both tempted each other. They fell. They created the fall and the loss of innocence in all of mankind, and they realized it, and they couldn't hate each other because that would only make things worse. So they had to then forgive each other, and then together they learned to seek God's forgiveness by not hating each other, but hating the situation and getting through it together. Question 3, book 10. Marriage after the fall. How do the love and companionship Adam and Eve show above compared to what they had in the bower of bliss before the fall? How does Milton characterize the marriage bond after the fall? Basically, this is like the question before. Their marriage wasn't as strong before because it was innocence. It was weak. It was just that it was a clean. They didn't have anything that they had gone through to strengthen their marriage. It was just a perfect marriage. But after the fall, they had gone through something together. They had realized that their their love was strong enough to get through more than what they thought it was. And this is what majority of the group thought on both these. 2 and 3 are kind of the same questions with the same answers, except for one's about going through to seek God's forgiveness and the other's about specifically their marriage. But together they got through it, because before they hadn't gone through anything. They were just a sweet little innocent love life, and then after the fact they went through a lot together, so it made up for it. Book 12, I skipped 11 because it was just a summary on it. Felix Kumla. Milton scholars often say that Milton believes in the idea of fortunate fall. Felix Kumla. In what sense is the fall fortune a good thing? Most of the group decided that the fall fortune was a good thing because it showed God's forgiveness. Adam and Eve destroyed the world. They created for sin, and so the world wasn't perfect anymore, and the fall of mankind happened. But it's a good thing because it shows God's forgiveness. When after the fall happens, God is able to show his forgiveness, forgive them for the sin that they have created. Question 2. What is Eve's role? What is her role after the fall according to the above lines? Is woman a bane or a boon to man? Basically, she is a boon, I believe. I think that is what Daniel Premier said. Yes, described her as a boon, and that's what makes it, and basically that's what everyone else said too. Her role after the fall was that she had to obey her children now. She had to be submissive to her husband, and she basically didn't have his voice. And that was her role after the fall because of what happened. So men had to work, and then wives had to take care of the men. Question 3. Milton said in book 1 that he would justify the ways of God to man. Did he succeed? Yes. Everyone decided that he did succeed. There was a big group agreement right here. They did succeed because he showed how his forgiveness to God's ways of forgiveness were so great, and that he is very powerful, and man doesn't realize this, and God showed his power and how complex he is and how he's able to do all these things, and showed the relationship between God and man, and what happens and what God expects of man, and what expectations, or what the expectations God expects for man, and what happens when you break those expectations or you do wrong. And I think Milton did a great job of showing this, and the group mainly agreed. So that is my discussion board post for group leader, discussion board 14. I'm sorry this is so long. There was a lot of questions to get through, and I wanted to make sure everyone had a voice in it. So that is the discussion board. Thank you.